And those who say they will not come back to Jamaica, they spend too much time of their short holiday on the road. And we know about 43% of those persons who come into Montego Bay end up staying in Negril. They find that airport is also one of the biggest catalysts for development in an area. And that's when you start to have housing and communities that start to develop that kind of thing. Airport employs thousands of persons, custom persons, immigration, flight attendants, foreign entities come in, bid for operations of the airport, and they pay a percentage of gross revenue to the government of Jamaica. It takes a load off the taxpayers, but all of this is part of the analysis to determine whether or not it would be feasible to develop the Aerodrome on the site as government had instructed us to do.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this very special presentation on the Negril International Airport. For those visiting for the first time, my name is Winthrop Wellington, and here on my channel, I help you move to and invest in Jamaica. And this presentation was an excerpt from my Jamaica Investment Conference, Throp-X 2024. And I thought it was very important that we close out the education portion of my conference with a presentation by the Airport Authority of Jamaica in getting an understanding of the Negril International Airport development that is coming on board. And Mr. Bryson, the one who made the presentation, very much goes into the fine details in the thickness of the forest and understanding what this development is all about. He really does do a good job, in my opinion, in addressing a lot of the concerns of this airport, from the environmental aspect, how it's going to be financed, why are they doing it in the first place, and what evidence do they have to justify this very, very hefty investment, and of course, what the impact is going to be on the region. All of this is addressed in very much fine detail. It's also accompanied by a PowerPoint presentation, and if you want a copy of that PowerPoint presentation, all you got to do is fill out the form below, put your name and your email address, and I'll be more than happy to shoot that PowerPoint presentation over to you. Lastly, before we go, an important aspect that was also detailed in the presentation is where exactly this airport is going to be. And I know a lot of people are wondering, and that wasn't detailed, at least in my research leading up to this conference, that wasn't detailed out. And I'm more than happy to share this presentation with you all. And of course, if you're not subscribed already, please consider doing so. If you get any value out of this video, and if you know anybody that would benefit from this video, please feel free to share it with them. And don't forget to hit that like button. Enjoy the rest of the video, everybody. I'll see you in the next one.
So please allow me to welcome Horace Bryson. He is a Senior Director for Engineering, Maintenance and Projects with the Airport Authority of Jamaica.
I want to say thanks, first of all, to Winthrop. Part of what we do at the airport when we have to get into new development, we are obliged, I feel proud to make stakeholder consultations. So he was one of our more vibrant participants at the last stakeholder meeting that we had for this region. And when he made a call for us to participate. And I drove quite heartily to get here in time to share with you what we have. So, Winthrop, we appreciate what you have had to contribute so far, and we hope that it will be a partnership going forward from here. So,
all right.
So, airport, you're very keen. And it's coincidental. When I got here, I realized I do have an airplane on my socks.
Touch.
Okay. So most of us, what do we know about airports? You get into the airport, you get to the ticketing counter, you check in, and you get on the airplane, you get where you want to go, and that's it. Many persons would not know that airport is one of the most diverse business. It has so many opportunities, so many different moving parts for you to do. go from your home to your destination. Now, our Prime Minister announced some time ago that there's going to be a new international airport in the western section of Jamaica. I can assure you that most of you were not more surprised than I was, because I immediately knew what that meant. My job at the airport involves planning, maintaining airports, and taking responsibility for anything that goes technically wrong in most of those owned and operated by us. Okay, so new international, you have an international airport, one in Kingston, one in Montego Bay, and one in St. Mary. It used to be called Boscobel Aerodrome, it's now called Ian Fleming International Aerodrome. Can you roll forward for me, please? So the Prime Minister announced that there's going to be a new international airport in the West. And we took the mantle right away and we started to work and roll. The planning of airports is a very, very involved process. And I wouldn't bore you with all of the details. And Winthrop, feel free to share with whomever that wants. There's nothing classified that any member of the public can't see. And I won't get into trouble for sharing it, I'm sure of that. Okay? So initially, you have to conduct a feasibility study for that. We do not have a plethora of skill sets in Jamaica that can easily do that. So what we do, we let an international tender for the take-up of the planning of that airport. So we kicked off in November 2023 with getting our consultants on board. Roll. And what the government had said to us then is that they would want us to develop what is in the aerodrome in Negril to become an international airport. So we first had to look at that. We looked at that and we used all the metrics and methodologies that are consistent with the international regulations for developing airport. And very shortly after that, with the various metrics, we realized, roll please, that there were a number of challenges that would mitigate the development of the nicely huddled aerodrome that we have from developing into an international airport. A number of things. Firstly, the biggest and the most important, and I'm very proud as a Jamaican for this, is the environmental considerations and limitations. Now, where that aerodrome sits, it sits right on the edge of the Great Morass. Now, the Great Morass, whether you know it or not, the processes that take place there ultimately is largely responsible for a lot of the white sand that you have on the beach. So once you begin to mess with the ecology of the morass, or one of our biggest and greatest attraction and well-known thing across the world, the white sands beach of Negril, we are eroding that. And that's one of the major things. There are also other safety concerns. To the bottom right of your pictures, you have spontaneous fires many times per year, and that in itself would pose challenges and safety issues there. And there's a lot of flora and fauna that depend on the balance, the environmental balance. So one of the greatest challenges that we faced at first was the environmental. Now, also, that aerodrome there is small, so there's no way that it would be economically feasible to have international flights coming from abroad. The largest number of passengers I know that, and our research has shown that has come on an aircraft is when you had the Dash 8 back then, when you had the Air Jamaica Express at the time, that used to take up to about 30 passengers. There's no way that you could be flying thousands of miles with 30 passengers in any kind of vessel, and it makes sense. So we quickly did the analysis, and this possibility of development at the site, we realized it wouldn't work. Roll, please. That there then, those are numbers from consultants that we hired and the metrics that they go through to determine what is the kind of payload that you would need and the economics of it. So this slide really is a means to an end. There's a lot of technical data and a lot of number crunching that will go into that, those pie charts that we have here. But all of this is part of the analysis to determine whether or not it would be feasible to develop the aerodrome on the site as government had instructed us to do. Okay, continue. As part of it, so you can roll again. And the numbers to support the analysis. Okay. That's not much use to anybody except the technocrats. It is not feasible. Not feasible.
Okay.
Not feasible. And this is just on the numbers and the economics of it.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So continue. So what we did, we went back to the government and we said, what you have proposed, sir, is not feasible. So we got further instructions. Well, okay, we will need another international airport in the West. Now, let me tell you one of the reasons why. The Sangster International Airport, they take flight from far places. However, there are limitations to its expansion. Okay? A limitation to its expansion. How the airport development works, an airport has to do what we call a master plan every 5 years. And you do the master plan way in advance so you know what the demands are going to be. And if you recall, almost every airport that you fly into, you look and you will always see some measure of construction going on. And before I got into the airport industry, I said, why are they always building? You can't wait until the demand occurs before you build. A building takes time. And you're going to have a challenge if you do that. So you do a master plan, and the master plan is done in 5 years. You review it, and you actually start to build before the demand comes. Okay? So that's what is happening. So we look at Sangster, and we said, okay, if you go to Sangster now, you see a lot of construction going on, but there's going to come a time, another 10, 15 years, when the demand for air transportation from the western part of Jamaica, Sangster alone is not going to be able to accommodate that kind of growth. What you also have is that the vessels are getting much larger. You have the big 380s that's going out now, but it's not uncommon for you to have 250, 300 persons on an aircraft coming in. The bigger the aircraft, of course, it takes a longer runway to fly, and you need more building space and processes to process these passengers. Mm-hmm. When I travel, I want to get into the airport, into the airplane, and when I get off the airplane, I just want to get out and go to where as quickly as I can. So all these various processes, you have to make sure that you have space and people to accommodate them. And if I was to dissect the various processes that goes on to the airport, you wouldn't be going home until probably about 8 o'clock.
Let's take a look at
So these sites, we eliminated the existing site, and then the government said, look at another site. So we applied the metrics, and we looked at it, and you will look at it and said, 721 sites were investigated.
Well, 7 Negril sites analyzed, producing 17 options. Each was evaluated against 21 criteria, including operational safety and environmental things, financial viability and the outlay, the site potential or capacity, as well as the economic stimulus considerations. You want me to name the sites or no? We're good?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Go back to the other slide. You see, also you would look at, there's an acronym here, ICAO. It means International Civil Aviation Organization. And that is the umbrella body that monitors the standards and guarantees your safety. And all jurisdictions have a local representative. Ours is called the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority, but that is the umbrella body. And they have several manuals, and you have to develop exactly according to these manuals, or else you cannot be certified and you wouldn't get international status. But once ICAO does not guarantee and give you that status, you're not going to get flights coming into your airport because it is not deemed to be safe enough.
All right, next slide.
And so we went through all those options, and then we finally came down to 2 locations there.
Site H, New Hope, and then in Site B, Little London.
Good. And those are some of the criteria for the evaluation of the...
That specific site.
Yes. Next. And then we came down to a final choice of where we would want to put it. And it's Little London site. So presently, the proposal is to build a new airport at the Little London site.
Would you like to... Okay, go.
You will see some numbers on there. No, go back. Okay. What you see there, the 2,240 meters, is what is required, the initial runway length at startup. And that will take flights for what we call the design aircraft from almost whatever range that is, as far as Canada. And this site presents also opportunities for expansion, so you could have a lengthening of it. If you go to the next slide, what is there is the initial layout of the runway and the various support buildings and so forth for passenger processing and maintenance, repair, and overall facilities, and passenger processing. And it also has potential, as I've said before, for lengthening of the runway as well. So those are some of the parameters that had to be satisfied. Make sure that you're not only building for now. Recall I mentioned that you have to ensure that every 5 years you're doing a new master plan. And I've been at the airport now 15 years. And I caught the middle of the first master plan. So I'm in the 4th rotation of master plans. And this is across all the international airports.
All right.
Okay, go ahead. Now, what are some of the impacts of airport? Airport employs thousands of persons any one airport. Our airport here would probably employ maybe 400 or 500 persons in there of different skill sets, different disciplines. We start with the custom persons, the immigration, the flight attendants, the commercial person, and it's a big commercial center. And these are some of the benefits that accrue from airport development. And the last one, I'm sure that government is most happy about, because you probably don't even realize that when you travel, then there are taxes on your airline ticket. But a part of that, the tax structure, is that some of the fee structure is that it goes to the master planning build out that I spoke about earlier. So you're traveling now, but you're paying for your own comfort and the comfort of your children. So you're paying now for the sustained development of the airport you just named.
The preliminary.
We're here to decide. Usually, airports can be financed in many, many ways. The structure of financing that is common in Jamaica now is what we call a concession. So both international airports, one in Kingston and the one in Montego Bay, they operate under a concession. So you have foreign entities come in, they bid for the operations of the airport, and they pay a percentage of gross revenue to the government of Jamaica. And then they also they are responsible, the operators that is, for the planning, the master planning, and also the build out. So it takes a load of the taxpayers having to fund the improvements in our airports. And that's a structure that has been getting increasing popularity throughout the world, and our country, Jamaica, is one of the pioneers of what we call a public-private partnership arrangement. My apologies. It has done so well that we have people from first world nations have come to understudy what we have here as a model, and some of it has been implemented in other jurisdictions.
Next slide.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that will accrue from a new airport? I don't think we emphasize enough the environmental considerations. We can't be building and now enjoying things at the expense of our children. Okay? So reduction of carbon emission is a very important one. Thank you. And those numbers there will tell the story. Okay? I left Kingston this morning at 10 a.m. and I got here well after 4. And I was held up in traffic with most of the townships along the way here. And I'm sure for most of it is not an uncommon story that happens. And every time I come to this side, I have to choose carefully the time when I travel, because that story repeats itself all the time. You tourists now, if a tourist lands in Montego Bay and their destination is Negril, they're coming from Fort Lauderdale, and it takes them less than 2 hours to get to Jamaica. They land in Montego Bay, and it takes them sometimes 2 hours to get to Negril. And when we check the the forms or the information, and those who say they will not come back to Jamaica, they spend too much time of their short holiday on the road. So this is one of the benefits that will accrue from a airport in the Western region. We know that about 43% of those persons who come into Montego Bay end up staying in Negril. Now you might ask, how do we know that? If you think about it, every time you fill out an immigration form, it asks you your final destination. Mm-hmm. So the IATA, International Air Travelers Association, they collate all that information, and that is what we use to determine much of what we have to do in terms of decision making. So there are many benefits in that way that we know will accrue once we build an airport in this region. Mm-hmm. Those are some of the benefits. Job creation, foreign direct investment, and the list goes on. Growth in tourism, cultural exchanges, graded transportation network. We'll say more about those later on.
But I want to pause here because one of the things locally that people were complaining about is saying we want better roads as opposed to going straight to an international airport. Your third benefit listed here says infrastructure development, upgraded transportation networks, and modernized facilities and services. Are you able to shed some light as to the road network now leading into this identified area?
No, I don't have much detail. I know that there are plans for a new highway, where the Montego Bay bypass that would prevent you from going through Montego Bay. That is going on, but I don't have much detail on the road infrastructure upgrade at this point in time.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Next slide. Some additional benefits.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, next slide.
Sometimes Winthrop, you can feel free to share with whomever wants it.
We'll go back to that last one. So you're saying the next steps would be to finalize your master plan report, review and finalize a funding structure. You're going to present your master plan to the government of Jamaica. And then the fourth thing is decisions and or further instructions. So when do you plan to finalize your master report?
The document part of it is pretty much finalized. Mm-hmm. And as I'm sitting here now, I'm finalizing it because this is a part of it, stakeholder consultation. Mm. So if you have things that you want to talk about, that you want to see reflected or considered, then please feel free. We will continue to work with Winthrop and his team. He, as I mentioned at the start, he was very vibrant, and that's what we took note and said, but this seems to be a good partner that we need to keep in the West because we will have the kind of representation that we have. So it's finalized, and we need to give it back to the government by March of next year.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions that you would like to pose? Step forward. You can start. We can take maybe like 3 questions.
Okay, I'll be quick because I have 2 questions. The first one is,
choose the best
can
one.
It's a 2-part question. Can you mentioned something about what I got from what you said. One of the reasons why you're doing this is because there's some scaling issues with the Montego Bay Airport. So there's something that needs to happen that cannot happen in the long term with Montego Bay Airport. Therefore, you need to add a new airport. That's kind of what I got. Could you explain to us a little bit more about what the constraints are with expanding Mobe to do what it needs to do?
Not exactly what
Okay.
I may have not interpreted it properly. The Montego Bay Airport, just recently we expanded the runway. Yeah. So that can take flights from quite some distance. It has some challenges in terms of the passenger processing buildings because it doesn't have a lot of land left that you can build out. And if you think about how it's configured, if you take a aircraft that is going to take in 300 and you have 3-4 of them at any one time, you have a problem. And Montego Bay Airport, and this is not so peculiar to it, but Montego Bay Airport, if you go there, most flights come in somewhere between 10 to 2. Why is that? When you go to a hotel, when do you check in? 3.
Mm-hmm.
When do you check out? 12. So it brings new passengers in the 11 to 3 o'clock window and take those passengers out. Okay? So if you have that bulk of passengers there and it continues to grow, you're going to soon going to have a problem and you can't process, and you're going to have flight delays and a lot of cost implications because the place is just overrun. So the runway is not the constraint there per se, but the passenger processing facilities.
Okay, and there's no room to improve there, because I'm all about solving the right problems. If it sounds to me like we're saying Mobe has scaling issues, whatever they may be, and that's why we need a new airport. But I'm also hearing that one of the reasons for building a new airport here in Negril is because a good percentage of the individuals flying in are actually, their final destination is Negril, right? The other thing is the roadway coming this way, it's 2 hours, it's too long. But it's actually 80 kilometers from Negril to Montego Bay. That's 50 miles. You build a sensible road, people get here in less than an hour. Nobody on planet Earth could complain about a 1 hour commute going anywhere, because no matter where they live, if you live in New York or wherever, just going back to a metropolis, it's going to take you that long to get home. So nobody's going to complain about that. So if that's the real issue, that's what we need to solve. The benefit of that is that you're not only solving a problem for tourists coming in, you're solving a problem for people living in the area.
Right, of course.
Because they get to traverse that road and it improves their lives. We need to start to prioritize infrastructure for our residents. Yes, they benefit from tourism, but we could solve that problem and also solve their problems.
Yeah, sir, that makes so much good sense.
So we need the roads too.
You need the roads and you need the airport, but I have to disappoint you. I am here to represent those airports today.
I won't bore you with like another infrastructure question, so I'll get right into the airport inquiry. Will this Negril Airport start off like Ian Fleming, or will it be something different? Like as a start?
Airport, Ian Fleming was a domestic aerodrome that was expanded, upgraded to take international flight. There are limitations as to how
The bottlenecks,
the
correct.
volume that you could take there. The runway is constrained. It's just about 2/3 of what you really would like for like what you have at Montego Bay, and so
Basically, it's like kind of like a
it's locked in. Remember, I said we plan well in advance. Montego Bay and Kingston will take you another 15 years before they max out. What happens after that?
the bottleneck kind of occurs afterwards, to where it's like it's kind of like internet. It's like so much bandwidth around.
Kingston, it has a lot of unused capacity. And that's where business interests and so many fly into. Montego Bay is more tourist-centric.
Gotcha.
This one that is being planned is planned around both commercial and tourists. And airports form catalysts for development. So you get into an airport development and you find that a lot of new entrepreneurial activities spawn from that. If you even think about the stakeholders and who benefit, people who take you to and from the airport, the local transportation industry,
Of course.
suppliers, food and beverage, the entrepreneurs who take up the shops and the retail stores. So they find that airport is also one of the biggest catalysts for development in an area. And that's when you start to have people that start housing and communities that start to develop that kind of thing. I hope I've answered you.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you. Thank you, by the way.
Hello. So my question is, I know we spend a lot of time talking about international travel, and Delano even spoke about the domestic roadways. My question to you is regarding potential local air travel. Is there a plan or potential master plan of building out such a network for local Jamaica? And if so, could you expound a bit?
Okay, so from my vantage at Airport Authority, then we treat with airports and airport development. In terms of island-wide coverage of air transportation, presently there is a plan and a study going on, what we call a civil aviation master plan, right? A camp study. And that is the study. It is being led by the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority. And that is going to look holistically at what obtains or does not obtain for air transportation in Jamaica. So coming from that, we will be informed what are the needs and what we need to be doing now, short, medium, and long term, towards both international travel and local travel. And the Civil Aviation Master Plan is not only going to look at air transportation, but in ensuring that it captures everything. It will also look at ground transportation, road network as well, so that we're not leaving out anything that we say, well, okay, so build another airport there, and then you find that a highway goes there and it's of no use. So it will take it all fine, looking at the Civil Aviation Master Plan, it will look at all modes of transportation as well. That's the best way I can answer your question. Yeah.
Okay. And is there any kind of timeline associated with these studies? I mean, I presume they're doing the feasibility study, civil, and so on. Right?
We've gone a little bit past that, because the Jamaica Civil Aviation Master Plan, they have actually put out tenders for the Civil Aviation Master Plan. So those tenders have not yet been returned.
Okay.
But that is at the stage at which it's at.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just saying, good presentation. Thank you very much. I have been on all the platforms of the consultation, being part of the Negril Chamber of Commerce. And I think the research that they've done is very in-depth. And the local people, I'm talking in Negril, they are a bit suspicious about the airport because they're more concerned about infrastructure, water, lights, and roads. Now, they don't realize, because they have not been in on the consultation and the depth of research that the team has been through. And I think we maybe need to put that out more to the local people. And what you've said about the investment and the job opportunities and the small businesses that will develop from an airport coming here. One of my questions, which we didn't ask on the platform, was, will the Negril Aerodrome be still in operation. After that, come on. Yes.
That's the easy one. Yes, it will be.
Thank you. Like Tenzin pen. Yes.
And not only will it continue to be operational, we are actively doing the plans for its improvement as well.
Thank you.
The plan is to increase the length of that runway, put in a new passenger terminal building. You will notice that we keep on doing something. There's a gazebo outside that you can now sit when you go. So that will remain. And when we did the feasibility study, it did indicate that. And I thank you for your participation and your feedback in the stakeholder consultation, because we got that very clearly that you still want to have your aerodrome there.
Right.
But there is no plan that I know of.
Right, thank you. Another thing, just to show that the in-depth research, I don't know if I can share this, is the in-depth research that the team has done is where it's going in the St. Paul's area, in the cane fields, where St. Paul's Church is, that there's a graveyard there. And they found out, I'm just sharing the in-depth research that they've done, and they have found out that the first ever African that came to Jamaica was buried in St. Paul's graveyard at the church. And the reason how they know that was that there was molasses lining the grave, because they did not want the soul to get out of the grave. And just to show the people, that is how in-depth the research is, and it's environmental and everything. So they are not just thinking about this likely, they are doing their research. And it will happen, and I've been telling the locals in Negril that they needn't get up in arms about it, because it's progress. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mahmoud. I'll tell the other members of my team exactly how you feel and I'll convey your sentiments, but I wouldn't take all the credit for that. How we were able to do that is by the stakeholder consultation. It is the feedback from the groups and the meetings that we've had with the stakeholders that we knew of many of these things and how important it is. So the stakeholder consultations do work, and I thank you and your team and those who have participated in those consultations. And there will be more consultations. And when I speak of the Civil Aviation Master Plan, there will be also a stakeholder consultation, because when we engage the consultants, that's a part of their terms of reference. These stakeholder consultations is critically a part of it. We are building for the people. We're an arm of government. They do politics, we do technical work.
Thank you.
You're most welcome, ma'am.
Hi, so I have some questions from the online audience. Is there a general timeline from the stakeholder consultation to presumably beginning the eminent domain land acquisition process?
I'd have to await the document going all the way through to government, and from there they will get our timeline and our schedule of how we proceed. So at this point, no, there's no timeline that I could convey to you.
Okay, thank you. And the second one, can you confirm the estimated build time for the new airport from breaking ground to practical completion?
That's a difficult one as well. It's a difficult one. Typically, you could get a runway and a building in 12 to 18 months, but then that would be just a basic facility. And typically that's how airports develop. You start with what is basic to operate, and then you build out as you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. So 12 to 18 months, very reasonable time.
So we have now come to the end of day 2 of our conference day, a part of Throp-X 2024. How are we feeling?